The disbursements to the county assembly, Governor, and maybe now we can go back to policy and practice. We would expect, if there's a budget that's been approved and that the county assembly ought to get, say, 600 and let's say 600 million, and all the money comes, you receive your full exchequer release. Do you allocate to the assembly fully as per their budget, or you make some considerations and you reduce their allocation?
We give them their entire budget.
You give them the entire budget?
Yeah.
So in this case, in this financial year, what was the budget for the county assembly? Was it 766 or 731?
731.
And in terms of payment, are you able to, okay, maybe there's no strict control where if you have a budget of 731 and you use the same vote to pay 35 million more, maybe the system does not have that control of matching budget and expenditure. Reverend, if the budget for the assembly was 731 and it's already been captured, and then they were to transfer 766, 35 million more, the system allows that?
Chair, they cannot transfer money without approval from control on budgets. And the control on budget has to check what the budget, what the amount in the budget and the amount that they are transferring. So the control on budget is the one that checks whether what they are transferring and what was approved they are tallying. If they are not tallying, they cannot be transferred.
Okay, Governor, I'm seeing we are getting to that time where the House sits usually at 2:30, and we try to tie our meetings to that 2:30 timing. We need to make some progress. We've dealt with about 6-7 financial statement issues. None of them have been resolved to the satisfaction of this committee. We are still left with question marks around the 35 million. I think we will give directions on how this matter should be handled. But if we were to push it to the next audit cycle, then there needs to be proper explanation or justification. We have asked the Auditor General whether it's indicative of loss. I think someone had asked Senator Dulo whether it's indicative of loss of public resources, and you have said you can't tell. But I've also given you a live example of a county where such operations were used to steal public resources. I think even in Migori, the EACC is investigating a matter where the money that left the executive was more than the money received by the assembly. And there was some firewall in between where money got lost. So I hope this is not the case. And members, we can apply our minds to it. And if the auditors can tell us they're satisfied, it's okay. If they're not, then it can be investigated along Homa Bay, Migori, and a few other cases where the transfers do not make sense. If you allow, in the next few minutes, we just deal with 1 or 2 HR issues and maybe take a view on how to deal with the residual matters. Honorable members, we can proceed to, we can get out of the County Revenue Fund statement and go back to the County Executive Statement. The matter of undisclosed contingent liabilities, Governor, are you here with your county attorney?
No, the county attorney is not here.
But there's a substantive office holder.
Yes.
You have a substantive county attorney.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you do not disclose contingent liabilities, it is partially a problem of the accountants and partially a problem of the legal practitioners. Now, this matter, I think, Auditor General, you said it's still outstanding because it was not disclosed in the financial statements. It can only be corrected going forward.
Yes, Chair.
So we can keep it in view. HR, perhaps we start with this matter of redundancies. Then we come back to the issues of where there are conflict on figures. Let's understand this matter, Auditor General, and explain redundancies.
Thank you, Chair. Unexplained redundancies. Review of payroll records reviewed a significant reduction in staff numbers from 4,884 in the month of September 2024 to 2,999 in the month of October 2024, resulting to a variance of 1,885 staff. Management attributed the reduction to dismissals and terminations. However, the dismissal records accounted for 1,863 staff, leaving an unexplained variance of 22 staff whose employment status could not be determined. In addition, there was no documentary evidence presented to confirm the reasons for dismissal, the due process followed, or whether the affected staff were issued with certificates of service as required. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
The management.
Sorry, just the page number because
17.
Page 17. Yes, you may proceed.
Chairman, the management reinstated 29 Walter Reed staff to the payroll. Subsequently, 7 of the officers retired, leaving 22 active officers in the system, thereby accounting for the observed variance. The comprehensive list of the reinstated staff, including details of those who have exited service, has been prepared and is available for review by the auditors, and we have Annex 11.
If you read the second last sentence of the auditor's observation, Auditor General, can you read it, the one that starts with in addition?
Thank you, Chair. In addition, there was no documentary evidence presented to confirm the reasons for dismissal, the due process followed, or whether the affected staff were issued with certificates of service as required.
Governor, what's your response on that part? Because you seem to have responded to the first part of 29. Do we have anything on record to just to help us understand the process, whether it was lawful and prudent? That is the objective of audit, whether actions taken are lawful and whether they are prudent. So the auditor queried the due process followed, and I thought that you would do a summary just because I would be happy to propose the model you used to other counties, including mine. We have a seriously bloated wage bill, which PricewaterhouseCoopers has looked at, has made recommendations, but we've not been able to take action. I would be very happy to ask my county to come and benchmark with Nandi. So, do you have anything on record, or since you're on oath, you can explain the process that was taken?
Chair, we do not have any of the documents as part of the bundle of documents presented, but since I'm here, I can be able to just give a rundown of the process. When we had a national wage bill conference in our, nationally we were participants as counties, and the whole discussion around the runaway wage bills and what contributes to the runaway wage bills within counties was shared with us through the through the conference. Part of the resolutions of the conference, which we were part of as county governments participants, was a recommendation on how to deal with wage bill. And one of the recommendations was that county governments or entities, both in counties and county governments and national governments should undertake HR audit processes. We did decide as a county government to undertake the HR audit. We had the option of engaging some of the government entities or human resource consultants. In our case, we decided to engage the Public Service Commission. We did engage the Public Service Commission. They came to the county. They did HR audit through the process and gave us a report. And out of the report, and I think part of that report has been shared in part of the committees within this house. It has been a subject of discussion within maybe not within this committee. We have alluded to it severally in this committee, but also in the various other committees. So when the report came out from the Public Service Commission, the County Public Service Board, we owned the report and we received the report as a county government executive, and the County Public Service Board, since that is the entity that is, charged with that responsibility, also got the report. They considered the report, adopted the report, and worked on and initiated their own process of adopting the report and implementing the report. Part of the recommendations of the Public Service Commission report, Human Resource Audit report on our county, was that it showed that there were massive irregularities in the processes of hiring, some irregularities in terms of promotions, some irregularities in terms of, the terms of payment for staff, some of them, irregularities on the payment of some allowances. Some staff were getting allowances that they do not deserve. Others were missing some allowances that they deserve. So there was a whole report that captured that. But at the center of that report was the flawed or the hiring processes that were irregular. And the recommendation by the Public Service report that was adopted by the Public Service Board was to undertake, the termination, so that then a fresh process that, abides by the law was undertaken. So the Public Service Board did the process of termination. The termination process found its way to court. Those who were affected went to court, and a number of issues were dealt with in court. The matter was determined at the labor court. They found, a number of issues had been presented to court, and I think that brief, if we can be able to provide the written brief in terms of the outcome of the court process. But the sum total of the process is that the Public Service Commission or the county government had the power, and the Public Service Commission had the right to undertake the audit when requested to, and that what was found in the report of the Public Service Commission was okay. But then they faulted the process of termination. So that termination process was faulted on account that the County Public Service Board did not give the staff due notice. There was an element of failure by the Public Service Board to provide or to give staff notice, and they went ahead to make recommendations to redress that breach of the law by the Public Service Board in not giving the notice. And in terms of that, they provided they made a ruling that staff that had been, because of that breach, staff who had been who had served with the county for less than 1 year, there was a certain amount that was presented. They should be paid 2 months salary in lieu of the fact that they were not given the notice. Those who had worked for 1 year, 2 years, a period of 1 to 2 years, there was an amount or the number of months they were to be compensated. Those who had worked for more than 5 years, so they categorized the same. So the county, we were then directed, or we are expected to proceed to implement the ruling of the court. what then happened is that the same staff were not satisfied, they appealed. So the matter, as we speak right now, lies within the Court of Appeal. However, they did not get orders stopping us from implementing the ruling. So in terms of advice that we have from the county legal office, the county attorney, is that as a county we need to proceed to undertake, to implement the ruling that was given by the labor court. However, so that is the process that, that explains the process with regard to the audit and the termination and the matter that went to court. But on the part of the county government, the recommendation that was given by the Public Service Commission then was to then do the recruitment regularly. And that process has started. The staff who were affected initially were 1,885. We have since, as a county, or the Public Service Board has since started the process of regularizing and doing the process of hiring afresh. And up to now, we have done about 1,200 staff have since been hired, through the proper regular process as recommended by the Public Service Board. There is still an ongoing hiring process. Even right now, there is ongoing hiring process for about 200. So eventually, we have been able to then regularize the process, bring down the numbers. Some have, any issues that related to allowances that were not regular, all of them are being addressed through the regular, hiring process that is going on by the Public Service Board. We then, Chair, could if this committee directs, we could provide a comprehensive, written advice on this. Or not advice, but chronology of events and the outcome and that detail that we can be able to provide. But it suffice to say that, the matter is there is still an element of the matter at the Court of Appeal, but also there are good progress that has been made by the county government in terms of regularizing and also ensuring that, and that has cut down our wage bill. It has regularized staff who are, every staff now who was supposed to get certain allowances under the new regularized process, get their allowances as expected. So that process, we have made progress with that process to that extent.
Just to guide us, what are the matters that are still before the Court of Appeal so that we don't go sub judice?
Well, the Court of Appeal, the staff in the appeal the entire ruling, because what the staff wanted was a determination that, or they wanted reinstatement. The entire team of the 1,800 wanted reinstatement. Even those who had issues, who had irregular promotions, wanted their promotions retained. Those who are getting allowances that were not entitled to them still wanted that, the status quo retained, including even those who are hired completely outside a process. They still wanted the court to determine that their status as staff of the county be retained. But then the ruling of the court was that all those processes by Public Service Board, by Public Service Commission were okay, except that the Public Service Board should have given a notice in terms of the termination process, and they provided a redress to it, which I think is a matter that is now subject to the appeal.
Okay. Honorable members? Senator Cherargei?
Maybe, Chair, just quick. Governor, on this, so you are saying that it is only 20, the others retired. You retain 20 from your document 26. Number one. Number two, these 26 you have retained. So those are the only employees that were retained. That will be my question one. Question two, if I listen to you carefully,
you have said up to now you have hired 1,200, and the chair was almost congratulating because when you reduce it became 2,999, but from your explanation orally, you have added 1,200, that comes to 4,199, and you are saying there is ongoing recruitment. So my question, this increment of 1,200, and how much are you intending to hire more? Because you had reduced from 4,884. So on the retention, I know you have said it's a matter in court, and the entire lot wanted to be retained without going through the competitive recruitment process by the County Public Service Board. So were you firing these people because they were irregularly hired or unprocedurally hired, not because of any other motivation, maybe like bringing down to 35% as provided by wage bill? Or what was the motivation? Was it to regularize the process? You are hiring because they were irregularly hired or unprocedurally? Or what was it? And finally, my third question, Governor, looking at the wage bill, the wage bill after recasting came back to 2 billion and 2.8 billion that you indicated, although your financial statement says 3.3 billion. So what is the implication of this additional recruitment of? And then Governor, if I remember right, I thought it was in August 2024 that the termination happened. And I thought at that time the pay slips has been issued. Does it mean those people and their contracts and services were terminated, a date been paid? Chair, I yield back the mic. Those are my three questions.
Senator Maruma?
Yeah, Chair, mine would be to the Governor. Number one, how has the laying off of the staff affected service delivery, especially on the essential services like hospitals, ECDE, revenue collection? Has the laying off affected revenue collection? Number two, is it Senator Cherargei who said that this matter is still within the radar of ESC? If so, then what is ESC investigating? Number three, Chair, you must have done then your linear programming. You must have done that to determine your staff establishment. So, because you're saying you are continuing to employ, so are we likely to employ until again we overshoot the 35% threshold?
Chair, can I add so that, Governor, I don't need to come back? I've seen most of these people you retain are people in health sector, especially Walter Reed. So what is the fate of the universal health coverage staff that there was the issue of 8.9 billion and they had demonstrations? They normally come to our gate, but I've advised them to visit you individually because you will address more because we finished. I know there was an issue with the budgeting, but in this Walter Reed, or I've seen a number of that you have, what is the fate of the UHC staff that are within the system? Thank you, Chair.
So, yeah, Governor, in your response, it is an opportunity for us to understand how the process ought to be. At least the courts of law have been involved, so you've got a very fine perspective of how this should be done. So it's a learning exercise, but we also need to get answers to some of the queries raised by the senators. Proceed.
So, Chair, part of, and I think let's just put it in context, that the way to reduce wage bill is not just in the numbers. It is also in terms of the terms of service. For example, one of the irregularities that was raised by, that was part of the irregularities that were shared by the Public Service Commission report was that some staff were hired not at the entry level. So you have a staff who is joining service, the job is required, the position is needed, but the person, instead of coming in at the entry point, the staff is, engaged at a higher job group. So the person earns a salary that he should be earning after 2-3 promotions, as an entry point. So already, if you deal with that aspect of correcting the entry level, you already reduce even in terms of the staff emolument. Some staff, for example, under health, we have a cadre of staff that are entitled to health risk allowance. Some are entitled to extraneous allowance. There were staff who ended up enjoying some of those allowances that are not entitled in that category. So when you correct that issue, even by retaining the numbers, you are still bringing down the wage bill because you have, you have released some of the, some of the allowances that they were being given or they were earning, yet they were not entitled to earn that allowance. Some people had, some irregularity that came out, that was brought out was the fact that some people got promotions, accelerated promotions. The promotion is supposed to be every 3 years, somebody moves, a job group higher. You have somebody who was employed 3 years in service, 2 years in service, but has moved 3 job groups. Fraud, so to speak. So by addressing some of those issues directly, you then are able to bring down the cost of wage bill, even without reducing the numbers. So one of the issues that came out was that particular one, that when you address issues in terms of even the job group, in terms of the entry level, in terms of the allowances, even with the same numbers, you can still be able to bring down the wage bill. However, one of the other issues that came out was the hiring necessary? How did you determine that you needed, for example, my senator has mentioned health. You have, how many nurses do you have? What is your, one of the questions that we had was we didn't have an approved staff establishment at the time the hirings were going on. So we were told that that process is regular on account of non-existing or non-approved staff establishment. One of those recommendations was for us to work on a staff establishment. We actually proceeded on, worked on it. We now have, so that these ongoing hirings that we have had are as per the staff establishment that has been approved. So the hiring was, in terms of the decision as to how many staff will be hired by the end of this entire process, I can't be able to give that number as at now. I said that we have a figure of about 1,200 as at now. And I think, if you gave us the opportunity when we do the written, submission on this particular matter, we can give a little bit of accurate figures. But for us, really, we are now hiring on the basis of an approved staff establishment. 2, that the process is being done openly competitive. Previously, you would have people engaged without an advert, without interview. So there was serious fraud around that process. Now we are doing it as provided by the HR policies. We also didn't have HR policies. We now have. We didn't have scheme of service for some of the cadres. We now have some of those scheme of service. Some of them we were using old, or the Public Service Board then used old scheme of service when there is a reviewed new one. I will give you an example. Previously under the Transition Authority, staff, for example, ward administrators and sub-county administrators had a very unique scheme of service. Now that was reviewed subsequently, and we now have a standard scheme of service. We no longer have, specific job description of ward administrator, sub-county administrator. They are all administrative officers. By even changing that alone, the staff who are affected, you bring down the cost of, the terms of service. So there is a whole, raft of issues that end up helping us in addressing the issue of the wage bill. But then there are questions that my senator raised on UHC. If you look at when the Public Service Commission did a report, they said that, for example, all these staff were employed without an advert and a process. But there are certain staff that under Walter Reid, staff who are working within our county, but they were being paid by this program, the Walter Reid program. When the program closed, there was a whole discussion between the Ministry of Health and the counties that these staff who had been employed by Walter Reid and they were in the payroll of Walter Reid, offering critical services to the county, needed to be absorbed because the work that they were doing in the county was continuing. We adopted, the funding under Walter Reid, ended. Those services were brought back to the county. We continued to fund them as a county government, and under that MOU and the agreement with Walter Reid, the staff were going to be transferred to the county. So when the Public Service Commission did the HR audit, they told us these 29 staff were part of the staff who are engaged without a process. But then we ended up explaining to the Public Service Board that these 29 were from the Walter Reid program, and there was a process. The Walter Reid had done a competitive process, engaged them, but when they transferred the job to us and the mandate to us to deal with those items that Walter Reid was dealing, these staff also joined us. So basically, we then had to take them back to the payroll because there was a process through which these staff were engaged. So, Chair, if you then can just allow, because I think...
Yeah, because I think you have a lot of substance, but it was in written form.
Yes.
That's why the auditor had asked for it. The auditor had asked for documentary evidence presented to confirm reasons for dismissal, the due process followed. I think this is a matter that we need to document properly.
True.
Because other counties might want to use a similar approach. And they can benefit from the mistakes you made.
True.
They don't make the same mistakes.
Agreed.
I think there was a question which will perhaps allow us to close this. What has been the effect on the numbers? The financial numbers, leave alone the head count. Because head count looks like you released 1,885, you brought in 1,200, and you're still hiring more. What's been your... As the compensation to employees figures reduced? Because again, when you terminate, I don't know whether there could be terminal benefits that would be much more expensive than regular monthly payments. So has there been an improvement or a reduction in your employee costs, and by how much?
Well, again, it can be captured. We can include the actual figures in terms of the reduction, but definitely suffice to say, yes, there has been a reduction. However, I think there was a point that was asked by Senator Mwaruma in terms of how was the rendering of services to our county affected. Yes, it was 1,800 was a major shake-up in the human resource. That is why, and it explains even some of the challenges, because it affected all the staff from health to finance to human resource, literally everywhere. Yes, there was it affected our service delivery, but we had contingent, decisions that we had to make, including talking to some of these staff who are affected, and then we showed them the roadmap that we are now starting the process afresh. We will give priority to those who qualified and who are working with us, and most of them agreed to work on a stipend during that period to just continue rendering services, especially in critical areas like health and many other areas. In finance, we have appeared here before where we had challenges even in terms of retrieving documents, supporting the auditors when they are doing the work, because a number of those staff were affected. So we tried to manage, but now with the 1,000 of about 1,200 already back on service, the service delivery within the county has now stabilized, and we can still provide the actual figures in terms of those changes, how much we have been able to reduce, Chair.
Okay, members, Senator Mwaruma, so you wind down.
Chair, lastly for me, there must have been officers who are involved in the breach of law on employment. What happened to them? Are they still working in the county?
As well as a county public service board,
Yes.
and when were these things happening?
Chair, maybe in addition, through the chair, he didn't come clear on the matter of UHC. I agree when he said the Walter Reid staff who had served, they had known the place, they were experienced, they were spread across the county. What about the UHC staff? How many are there? And what is Nandi individually, because its own entity, doing to ensure that the UHC in Nandi are absorbed and they are able, among these, because Governor, I believe in this addition 1,200 or the more you're hiring, at least the priority should be the LT sector.
Yeah.
So, Chair, maybe I yield back the mic.
So two things. There is, and Senator, let me just explain this. The UHC, we appreciate that this House has helped us to address partly the UHC staff, because these are staff that an allocation, and I think ours was about 100 and something. I can't get the exact figure, but I think 100 and something. The Ministry of Health gave us the numbers. Every county was given a number that you need to hire about, your allocation is about 150, others 200, others 250, for you to address the gaps that were existing in counties in terms of human resource for health that time when we had the pandemic. So the agreement was that the counties carry out the recruitment, the Public Service Board carry out the recruitment on behalf of the Ministry of Health, but the Ministry of Health would pay the salaries. So we did hire, the recruitment process was done by county governments, through the Public Service Boards, but the payment and the budget remained at Ministry of Health. The discussion now has been to move that budget to the county government, and two, so that the payment of salary is done by the county government for the staff who are working for county government under UHC. Then the second question was move the staff and also move the payroll, or move the payroll and the funds. So what you have done as the Senate is to include a conditional grant for the amount, the 8.9 billion through the conditional grant. And the discussion was that we need to put these staff who have worked on contract into permanent and pensionable, which we said we agree with that, putting them on permanent and pensionable. But the way to put them into permanent and pensionable is by including their salary as part of the shareable revenue. So that in the next financial year, if you put it as conditional grant, it then means it has to be budgeted every financial year. Our position is that if you then have to budget every financial year, it only means then you shouldn't have ideally put them on P&P, but put them on contract of 1 year renewable when the money is received.
Chair, allow me to interject.
Yeah.
Governor, does that explanation make you comfortable? Because, these are people's children.
Yes.
They are our brothers. They are our sisters. They have stayed there for 6 years on contract, not knowing what should happen to them. This UHC staff. You have been employing nurses, I know.
Yes.
In those 6 years.
Yes.
You are not considering them.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a good explanation to say that because you don't have equitable share to hire the UHC staff, because you are getting just grants, that should leave them out? It makes you very comfortable as a human being, as a governor. Really.
I want to give...
Maybe let me add, I thought in the IBEC, which is chaired by Professor Kithure Kindiki, a good neighbor of
More fire.
More fire. He's excited because he knows Kindiki might be the president in 2032. So, and he will be the Farouk of that time. So, Chair, what
is automatic
Order.
No, it was on a lighter touch.
Yeah, let's just get back to the report.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be alert on what I'm about to ask.
People go to Western of late.
Order.
Governor yesterday endorsed another candidate.
We might be approaching the point of diminishing returns.
No.
So, Senator Cherargei, just prosecute the
You
point.
have abandoned my projects.
But the governor was in that meeting. He said something. You'll ask him after this about 2032. So, Governor, the issue. So, what are you saying? Because we have had the president and IBEC where the deputy president chairs. We have had the president even here in Kajiado requesting that as COG, and you are one of the officials of COG, to fast track. While I agree, as a Senate, the 8.9 billion should not have been a conditional grant, which we are ready to rectify when the House resumes sitting. So you have given a lot. So do you, what is it that you have said that the payroll, there were gratuity interest that needs to be paid to these 7,600 staff. So what are you telling the UHC of Nandi? And the allocation of 8.9, although conditional, which we will go and rectify, are they be given priority when the hiring is, or you confirm them, because you have gone on record that the County Public Service Board did interview them and gave them the opportunity. Because, Governor, you have to appreciate, from 2020 to now, when they used to fight COVID, it's so painful. They have families. I'm told some of them are depressed. Some of them have lost their wives and husbands. Some of them cannot educate. Some of them cannot pay rent. So some of them might even miss going to heaven because they become hopeless. So, Governor, what are you telling the UHC from Nandi, so that you transfer that to your colleagues in Council of Governors, and so that whenever you meet, you don't need to mention Chair, Mwaruma, myself, and Sifuna. You just mention about UHC. So what is it? We just want that silver bullet.
Okay.
That we can take home with it.
Fine. I think there are specific questions. Of course, there are broader issues of policy. Maybe if you can make your response very brief. I was hoping that we'll be done with this meeting by 3 o'clock, but I can see that time is running faster than we are. So, brief response.
So I think I'm very straightforward. We sat in IBEC and agreed that the resources need to be in equitable, in the shareable revenue, so that it's for perpetuity, that the resources are available in perpetuity. We also agreed in a summit that should be the case. We even sat in joint meetings between COG and Ministry of Health, agreed to even write a joint letter to National Treasury that amount needs to go into shareable revenue. That was agreed, and if that was undertaken, since there was nobody who was against it, even the National Assembly initially, because some of their representatives, we have interacted within those forums. Everybody agreed that was going to happen. When we saw that the figure did not find its way to the shareable revenue, for us it took us aback, because why? And this is something that all of us have agreed. It secures the money for the future. So our thinking is that if we just sorted that should be able to be an obvious, and the transfer, or not transfer, but the confirmation of this stuff from contract to permanent and pensionable is an easier process, because we already hired them. I think it's just through a feasibility, suitability process, just a small process, because in any case, they were recruited competitively at the time they were being engaged for the contract. And I do not want to, so that is the position of COG. It makes a lot of sense. I agree with it. However, I think that even as we deal with these issues that we are now handling at converting that amount into the shareable revenue, I already have a roadmap to convert, the ones in Nandi into into P&P, because I agree for sure. When we have hired we have hired several other nurses, after with the UHC staff being there. We didn't give them priority because they were already on payroll anyway. So we were looking for additional staff. So if you brought in any staff who was on UHC into a number that you are recruiting, it only means that then you would have you would not have achieved much, because you are getting somebody who was already working for you, though being paid by Ministry of Health, and you engage them now, yet you cannot replace the UHC, because the window to replace the UHC had gone. So these guys have suffered for sure. And I think for me and for my county, I can speak for myself, there is already a process, because I have no reason to doubt that you as a Senate will correct that issue on the 8.9 billion that was given. So I'm in the process. I have already discussed with the Public Service Board, and I think there is a process being undertaken. And within maybe a month or two, even with or without the addressing of that challenge, I think I'm working on something within the county.
I think the other direct matter relating to Nandi that has not been addressed is the officers who are responsible for the mess you're clearing, the County Public Service Board responsible for that mess. What is being done to them?
There were two...
Including, sorry, Governor, Chair, and also the payroll managers.
Yes.
They must have been a narcos-like and of executing, because if the County Public Service Board, the people in charge of payroll, it is
a cartel.
Yes.
It sounds like a cartel.
And so that also the Governor can answer all the questions. You know, when counties are employing, they can employ a fresh graduate to be a director, job group, or you know.
Yes.
Yet when you are in the main public service, you have to really toil and moil.
Yes.
Like engineers, for you to reach chief engineer, you
What
must
is
have worked for very many years.
What is
Are you
the
comfortable when you employ fresh graduates as you know, directors?
Okay, start with the question of fact on what's happening to the officers, and then conclude with the last one on opinion.
So I mentioned the matter in court, which was a labor issue that was taken by the staff who were affected. However, we also then did invite DCI and the EACC as a county government to come and, you know, when the outcome, after the report came out, some have been taken to court. Others are still being under investigation by EACC, and you are better placed as a committee, you know, to find out from EACC, because, you know, a number of staff have been taken in for questioning. Some of those public service officials who are affected were on interdiction. Some of them are on interdiction, courtesy of the process that have happened. So the DCI is seized of the matter. EACC continues to investigate the matter. A number of our staff who are affected have recorded statements. Some of them are on interdiction, and I can give also that full brief. But I think in terms of the level and the status of the investigations and the case under EACC,
We'll find out from EACC because they sit here. Around which year were these things done?
That was 2024. The termination was in 2024.
But
the processes,
irregular recruitment?
It happened from, because we gave them, the public service board did investigation from the time devolution started, from 2013. So all these hiring
continued to happen under your watch?
Yes, some of them happened under my watch, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it involve some of your close allies who I know them personally?
Sorry?
Did it involve when you I expected you to give us names, especially when you said there were officers who are rising quickly in promotion in job group. Did it involve some of your allies?
All the staff in the county are my allies, you know, these are people we work with, but really it's a criminal process. I mean, I can't just name names of people here, but I think the whole process was, you know, is being investigated. A lot of them have been called in for questioning, writing of statements. Some have even been taken to court. So really the aspect of what needs to be done and it to be, I mean, an accountability on those issues are really within the various institutions of accountability. And we as a county government, when we wrote as a county government to EACC, we gave them all the information, we gave them all the details, so we know that is a matter that is being dealt with at that level.
I think as a matter of...
one just follow up.
Maybe let me say this before you have the last bite. From our conversation for the last 3 hours or so, I think it's emerging that there are two things that you must clean up.
Yeah.
Seeing that you've got 1 year to go to the end of your tenure. It is the issue of pending bills, which we have spent a lot of time on, and it appears that we don't have a very clear picture. And it's also on this issue of HR. The one on HR, fortunately, you are taking action. And the reason why I asked when these things happened, because sometimes governors say it was a problem of the past, but they've been happening under your watch. So you've got 1 year to fix those two issues. Yeah. Your payables, to fix the issue of HR, but also to ensure that you leave behind a civil service, a county civil service, that is up to the task, that takes its work seriously. I think there's a little bit of seriousness that you still need to instill on your team and your officers. Seneta Cherargei, and I think I will be bringing this meeting to a close in about 10 minutes. Senator?
Chair, maybe Governor, on the issue of interdiction and administration of administrative action, or if maybe let's say payroll manager is interdicted for 1 year or 6 months, one, how many officers you have interdicted, and then number two, what is their fate when they resume? Because maybe they were the payroll manager, they were in charge of human resource. what happens when they come back after 6 months interdiction or so many months? Give us a picture, because there must be a reason as to why they were interdicted. And then if they created that mess with the payroll, what becomes of it if they come back to the same department? So how many officers were interdicted, and what is the fate of these interdictees? Because I know the process of firing somebody is always complicated because of the labor process and what have you. Now that you are waiting for the other criminal accountability mechanisms to be done, what is the fate of these officers who have been interdicted that created a mess with the payroll? Chair, I yield back the
My
mic.
last question, maybe.
Okay, Senator
Chair.
Moses.
Last question. Governor, you're saying that your government is employing, and you know in the certificate page 6, the auditor has made a finding that there's breach of law in failure to observe ethnic balance and staff composition, and this is a pet subject for Seneta Cherargei, that when a county is employing, then we need the face of Kenya. So are you mitigating on this finding to make sure that Nandi County staff then has the face of Kenya?
Okay, as you respond, there was a number we had asked for, which perhaps does not even need to be submitted in future. You have just closed your financial year. I think your officers could have a picture on how much have you spent on compensation of employees in 25-26 compared with 24-25. Just a rough estimate. You can look up the numbers as the governor responds to the other questions, because we want to see the impact, whether it's translating into financial benefits, or we are just going around, musical chairs. Governor.
So my team will give me the figure there, but in terms of those who are interdicted, the procedure is that once somebody is implicated and that the matter has been taken up by the investigative authorities, to provide the affected or the culprit is interdicted, until that process is clear and the person has been cleared, he will remain interdicted. So it's a human resource process. It remains interdicted until when cleared. If they are not cleared, then the consequences of termination, dismissal, even possible further criminal, processes against them then continue. So for us, those who are interdicted and those officers who are central to this serious crisis, are under investigation. For the Public Service Board, this was happening under the previous Public Service Board. So their term ended, but they are still subject of investigation by EACC, and I'm sure they are part, a number of those members of the Public Service Board are actually subject of those criminal investigations that are ongoing. So really, any of the officers who are involved are currently facing those processes and the accountability processes through EACC and DCI and the others.
So that indicts the County Public Service Board. Do you have an audit committee currently?
Yes, we do.
Because in this report, there were issues with regards to internal audit. And because if you had a functional audit committee, internal audit processes, then some of those issues could be flagged early. You don't have to wait, to resolve 1,800 people. So, but you didn't come along with the chair of audit committee.
So he had been invited, he was not able to come.
But there's a substantive audit committee. There's an internal auditor.
Yes.
Have they done the internal audit charter?
Yes, they have.
Okay, so Auditor General, you'll test that when you go to the ground. Now, members, there are many issues on HR. I don't know whether they got the numbers. If you haven't gotten the numbers, then we might want to get those numbers at our next meeting or at the next substantive audit. We have not addressed ourselves to the issues of projects because we spend too much time on financial reports, which we have come to a conclusion that there are serious misstatements and inaccuracies. There are
Yeah,
projects in
maybe-
this report.
Chair, maybe before we move to projects, what about this payment of salaries outside human resource integrated system? It's a substantive material figure, 155,541,525 million. That is number 5 on page 7. And then on projects, because I know you had agreed because of another meeting you have for tomorrow's entities, if the committee will find it magnanimous, we
So
can.
is it possible that I propose we end it here and maybe give the governor opportunity to appear to another time to look at ROR and the rest
projects.
of
So many
bullets.
issues that are
Because there
before
are still
us.
so many
Chair.
issues.
So, Chair, can I request that if we have to end it with number 5 on salaries outside human resource integrated system, then if the committee, because the people of Nandi really want to know how projects are, their status, when are they going to be completed, whether they have been completed, and also I would be very keen on receiver of revenue, because I know the revenue potential of Nandi should be 1.4 billion, as by the CRA. Would really want to know how the 18 revenue streams that are in Nandi are doing. So, Chair, maybe if committee finds it, we can look at this human resource, because it's a very serious issue in the projects.
I think I take your proposal. Let's look at the payment of salaries outside HRIS, and then we'll take a view on the remaining issues, on whether to invite the governor, or whether we go to Nandi, or whether to push the matters to the next audit cycle. But whatever the case, owing to the serious issues of misstatement and inaccuracies in financial statements, it would be important that we have another session with the governor, so that those numbers that were not explained to the auditor and the numbers that have not been substantiated in this meeting, we can get a firm grip on them. So, Auditor General, read your finding under payment of salaries outside HRIS.
Thank you, Chair. Payment of salaries outside human resource integrated system. The statement of financial performance reflects employee cost amount of Kenya shillings 3,372,701,751 Kenya shillings, as disclosed in Note 9 to the financial statements. However, review of records revealed that the county executive uses both HRIS and manual Excel sheets in processing of payroll. The total employee cost paid outside HRIS was Kenya shillings 155,541,525 Kenya shillings, made up of manual payroll of Kenya shillings 85,202,776 Kenya shillings, and casual payroll of Kenya shillings 70,338,749 Kenya shillings. This was contrary to Section 1.5.1 of the Treasury Guidelines through the Financial Accounting Recording and Reporting Manual, which requires that each county government department is responsible for populating the IPPD with the information contained in these documents, issuing each appointee with a unique payroll number from the system and providing the appointee with a letter of appointment. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, your response and the page number.
The employees who were paid outside
Page number for avoidance of doubt.
page 16.
Okay, proceed.
Employees who are paid outside the HRIS Kenya system are those who are still awaiting personal numbers to be processed, since the request has been made and forwarded to the Directorate of Personnel Management, DPSM. Immediately the payroll numbers are received, they are moved from manual payroll to the Human Resource Information System, payroll system. According to the circular of the circular dated 20th of December 2019, the Ministry of Public Service in January 2020 rolled out a new system to facilitate in allocation and activation of payroll numbers, which delayed the allocation of these numbers. it is noted that as at 30th of June 2025, the staff on the manual payroll had not been incorporated into the system, and therefore the management is working towards achieving full transition of the staff to the HRI's system and ensure that all payroll data is managed through the system and adhere to the guidelines of the public service. The county payroll unit has forwarded requests for processing of the payroll numbers for all the staff who were being paid outside the payroll system, outside the payroll, to the Directorate of Personnel Management. Thank you, Chair.
So you make reference to Annexure 10. In Annexure 10, if you look at your fourth paragraph, which starts with kindly find attached.
Yes.
What does it read?
Kindly find attached the list of the newly recruited officers for your action.
Do we have visibility on the number of officers involved and whether they make up the 155 million? In the evidence before us, because that is what you're supposed to prove. If it's 155 million without personal numbers, I thought the easier thing would have been to attach that letter that you had sent to the principal secretary, the listing, and then we see if they all count, for 155 million, we can mark it as work in progress. Otherwise, what we have now is a story.
I agree, Chair, we could
A casual payroll and, you know.
And Chair, in addition, the number of staff that
make up either
manual
of the
payroll of 85,202,776 and casual payroll, which is 70,338,749. And we have seen counties when they pay casual, sometimes they say for municipalities and they give how they pay, the ID number, their job group and the amount they pay, so that we dissuade the issue of ghost workers or workers that are not supposed to be appearing, of 155,541,525. And it, in fact, in the observation, there is a manual Excel sheet which the OAG extracted this information. So I expected the county to provide that for easy tracking, and one of these 155 for 2,776 for the manual payroll and casual payroll of 70,338,749, so that it comes up to Governor to 155,541,525. So if there is a manual Excel sheet that gives total to this, it would have been easy to resolve this audit query. So, Governor, where is the manual Excel sheet?
I mean, it's not small money. It's about 13 million a month, isn't it? It's about 13 million a month. So it's not pocket change. It's quite significant. And I thought to account for this, it would have been just easy to say these are the people we have on the manual payroll, these are the people we have in the casual payroll, this is the total amount, and then you give us the story about the mitigating circumstances. Failure to which we could easily come to the conclusion that you are pocketing 12 million a month on unaccounted for employees. You see, you are doing great things up there, trying to rationalize your numbers, but then down here, you are still having control issues, which then make a mockery of your rationalization efforts.
Chair, our understanding was that the audit query here was, you know, the reason why we have these figures outside the system, because the figure, the list of the casual payroll and the manual payroll was actually shared with the auditors. It's how they generated these figures is from the information and the documents that we gave. So our understanding was that the query was really to explain why they were not in the HRIS as opposed to the exact details, but it's something that we can actually provide
Yeah,
with
yeah.
ease.
Governor, let's be clear. The auditor has their time for audit,
Yeah.
and it's statutory. I think, did we change the law so that it starts earlier than September?
Yes, there's a treasury circular that requires that financial statements be submitted by 31st August so that we start on 1st September.
1st
Thank
of
you, Chair.
September. So from 1st of September to 31st of December, it is a time for the auditor to do the audit. After that, the Constitution requires them to bring the reports to Parliament. So now it is for this, to the satisfaction of Parliament, not the satisfaction of the Auditor General. So I think this is a matter that we cannot resolve on the face of it.
Yeah.
And members, since we have so many issues that still require further explanation, I think today we have stretched quite a bit. In our next engagement, we'll make sure we start much earlier so that we don't leave any matter hanging.
Maybe on the 155 million, 541,525, I thought it is important that the governor brings the evidence that totals to this,
Yes.
so that the fact that the rationalization of 3.3 billion, so that we don't go back to where individuals who are not supposed to be on payroll, like ghost workers or people who do not work, or the cleanup. Governor, because you had indicated you did cleanup of the payroll system, but the fact that in the payroll there is still people who are paid through manually, and we know manual is prone to abuse. So can you dissuade us? And I think, Chair, as you rule on this matter of we hold it there, I think the issue of 155 million should and must be addressed and accounted for the way they have done in other aspects where we needed that has not been resolved. And I think, Chair, if you look even at prior year matters, sorry for taking back, this matter still recurs in the previous financial years that has been captured. And Governor, we did advise the OAG to be capturing prior year matters so that it is easy to track. So, Chair, I yield back, Chair, on the, or because I know the meeting will be suspended shortly, is if on the issue of projects, I tend to agree with you that you can come to Nandi. We'll welcome you warmly. We see most of these projects so that when we are querying the projects, we are on site. I think it is easier that way rather than sitting here in the committee. So please feel welcome so that we can see some of these projects. And I can assure you, after doing a good job, you will not miss Mursik after the entire process. Chair, I yield.
Thank you. You brought me to where I wanted us to be, to discuss and to give directions that the unresolved prior year matters that are listed as Appendix 1 in this auditor's report, they also require your response. Because, Auditor, did we get responses on Appendix 1 from the entity?
Chairman, we did not get a response. The Office of the Auditor General wrote to the entity on the 22nd of January 2026, and the letter was received. That letter was documenting a total of 57 recommendations which this committee had made. Again, we did a reminder on the 23rd of March 2026, and the letter was received. That letter was copied to the County Assembly, to the CEC Finance, and to the Office of the County Governor. But, Great Chairman, we don't have a response to those issues. Thank you.
Okay, Governor, you've had correspondence direct from the Auditor General on the basis of resolutions of the Senate, not once but twice, but there's been no response. Are you aware of those correspondences?
Yes, I am, Chair. And we...
What is, because there are timelines, If the matters remain unresponded to, they'll keep populating your report. Because we are not, nothing will disappear from this report until and unless there is a resolution through the Office of the Auditor General and the Senate. Auditor, when did you require them to, what timelines did you give them to respond?
we had given them 3 days from the date of that letter.
Now, Governor, you need to make sure that a response is provided, and if the auditor had given you 3 days then I think we might, we don't want to extend the time, but when we give you the notice for our next meeting, we hope, we will also be directing that you file your responses on prior year matters. Yeah, I think that's so that we don't set fresh timelines. Already the auditor gave you timelines which have lapsed. So prior to our next meeting, you will also provide a detailed response on the very many issues that are listed here. On HR, there were about 14 issues, almost 14 issues in just one department. There were things that the people of Nandi might wonder how they disappeared from the Senate. So, for example, the County Aggregation and Industrial Park, it's a prior year matter, but it's also in the current year. Ineligible expenditure under Kenya Informal Settlement Improvement Project. I think there's KISIP queried and KDSP had also been queried. Then there were all these projects that you're doing, which made a lot of sense from agricultural value chain and value addition perspective, but there were delays in completion. For example, Avocado Aggregation Center, the Nandi Cooperative Creameries in Kabiet. I think there was a coffee mill project under the KDSP, and then there was delayed operationalization of Nandi County Textile and Apparel Unit. They sound, thematically, they sound like very, very good projects, but good projects poorly delivered is a bad project. So we will need to get your detailed responses on this, even though they were not part of the substantive issues in here. There were also hospitals. Kapsengere has been queried in this report. Mother and Child Hospital. There's also the issue of the governor's office building, where you have bought furniture before completing the building, like buying airtime before you get the phone. So we will need to find out what was the wisdom of doing that and whether it is prudence. I think those are some of the things that we should ensure do not get lost until they are completed, until they are delivered, and until there is value for money. With that, members, unless there is any other matter you want us to deal with.
I think in the previous one on unconfirmed purchase of office furniture and general equipment, in the prior year, it was not unconfirmed. In this year, it was confirmed purchased, but the justification to buy it before the governor's headquarters is complete, because we want the next governor, be it me, to have an office to work from. And you know, I'm used to how efficient offices are in Nairobi, so I want the best office in Kapsabet. Although I've seen my brother governor has been changing colors of paint, but I want him to fast track. I've seen he has put capros, fencing, but it needs to be finished before the next general election, which is less than 1 year.
You sound like you are an interested party in this particular subject.
Of course I should be, because I'm the protector of devolution, and one way is to have a functional, convenient, working office. Even for a governor, if he finishes now, before he leaves office, so be it, so that that efficiency can be improved for service delivery.
I think members, these are things that might require us to have boots on the ground. It would be nice for us to go just have a look, and I think I'm convinced that maybe our next interaction with the governor probably should not be Nairobi. It should be out there in Nandi, so that we go around these projects, all these agricultural projects, and see whether what is on paper is the same as what is on the ground. I think with that, we will, time will not allow us to go further. I will ask the governor if he has any matters in closing before we also make our closing remarks.
Chair, I think I would just join my senator in saying, I think, visiting the ground and coming to see some of these projects makes a lot of sense. Again, a lot of progress has happened. A lot of those projects have actually been operationalized. I want to confirm to my senator, we should have declared conflict of interest on that matter a little bit or interest that he hopes that he can be the next tenant in the county headquarters, that I will have used it at least for 6
Governor,
months.
Ambition cannot be conflict. It would only be conflicted if it was a service provider. Yeah, but
So,
proceed.
Yeah, I want to confirm to him that I hope that I will also be able to use that office. Actually, part of the office is being used now. I am sure in another 1 month or so I should be, and if you find favor in visiting our county, basically that is where we will receive you. But Chair, I have noted all the issues that have come up in this engagement, and I confirm and I want to commit to address and abide by the directions this committee will provide. Thank you, Chair.
In the interest of time, we will donate our time to Seneta Cherargei for the closing remarks.
Chair, maybe just in closing is that those issues that we have flagged, I hope it can be addressed once and for all, so that my prayer, Chair, has been always every entity or every governor in office should ensure that they finish what they are doing, so that when the next session comes, it will be easy to manage. And Governor, you have to agree with me that at least everybody should finish what they are doing, so that when another regime comes, we don't want to see what you are trying to allude yesterday in Kabuliot in Moiben sub-county. Secondly, Chair, you have noted in terms of materiality, this, I have been tallying the amount that remain variant and unresolved. It comes to almost over 1.6 billion. These issues, and I know we would have gone even to the legal expenditure, contingent liabilities, the issue of pending bills, the issue of retention money, the issue of variance in employees and what have you. We really want to ensure that this 1.6 billion plus will be resolved and ensure that the people of Nandi can pinpoint. On the issue of projects, I agree that when we visit, Chair, we can create a circuit, because like Kapsengera is next to Vihiga and Kisumu, we can do within Kapsabet town, just to sample a view, even defined, if we can do it with Wazingishu, Chepteroi sub-county, when we are doing the Wazingishu, because that is near, Chair, and a number of other projects. It would be very important, including the one you have alluded to, Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. We were with the Committee of Health, and then, but we were looking at the services that is provided by county, but it's important that we can visit some of these projects. So I believe, Chair, that let us go on the ground and look at some of these projects, be it the ECD, be it the health sector, Chair, and many others. So Chair, I really want to see these things complete. And Governor, all these multi-year, this is your last year in office, these multi-year projects should and must be completed, so that we begin in a clean slate and give value for our people. If, personally, I don't have a problem, Chair, if Governor ensures that Chepteroi Sub-County Hospital Phase 3 is completed and functional, we say amen. If other projects within the county, Kapsengera and the rest, even I used to see is one, the Kobujai, where is local trading center, be completed and functional and people can access services, we want that to be completed. So, Chair, mine is just to say that, and hope to see you in Nandi. I know you are our neighbor. I hope to see you in Nandi, and if we can do most of these things, our people in Nandi will appreciate. And to welcome my brother Mo Fire. I know he has been fidgeting. You know, the reason today he has not been speaking is what he has been observing over the weekend. But I want to assure him, and to assure Professor Kindiki, we are with him until end time. So maybe Governor has a different opinion, but we will cross that bridge when we reach there. Chair, with those many remarks, allow me to rest there and yield back them.
Thank you, Senator. I think just to conclude it, we were not able to deal with issues on the receiver of revenue, even though the brief we got earlier from the Parliamentary Budget Office also shows that there is a problem there. When you look at certain revenue streams, like land rates are reducing, Parking fees is reducing significantly, market fees, property rent, such that the 771 million that Nandi collected, were it not for hospital fees of 385 million, then perhaps the performance of Nandi from a revenue perspective would be described to be much below average. But we shall have this discussion when we come down to Nandi and also deal with the other projects. And I hope by that time, the issues of financial reporting, misrepresentation and misstatement, we hope that that will not recur in the audit cycle that is beginning now. For the professionals, please, please take your jobs a bit seriously, because the politicians, the governors will come and go. It's just the other day that Seneta Sang became Governor Sang, and it's now 10 years. But as a professional, you should make sure that you offer a service that can transcend the political leadership. And you can only do that if you demonstrate utmost competence. I think keeping books in a county government, once you've got the CPA certification, should not be a challenge. And I'm looking forward to a future where we will be crying when you get a qualified opinion, you feel like hanging yourself. Because that's how it is in the private sector. You're supposed to have an unqualified opinion. A qualified opinion is not a badge of honor. It is an indicator that as a professional, you are falling short in certain areas. So in as much as we will push the governors as the CEOs, we will not hesitate to assign professional and individual culpability and responsibility to the professionals who fail to measure up to the standards. With that, we come to the end of today's session. This meeting is adjourned. We meet tomorrow at 9. At
9, okay. 9 is okay.
Yeah, by notice, as you will notify us.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. We wish you a safe journey back to Nandi.